Hello, good morning. I'm Richard Phillips. I'm a family solicitor, an accredited mediator and collaborative lawyer at Machin's. Today, I've got the pleasure of speaking with John Hind, who is the director and founder of Compass Resolution, Mediation and Coaching, and the author of the Divorce Manual. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much for the invitation, Richard. And thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about something that I'm really passionate about, which we're going to spend today. Thank you. Thanks.
So today I'm going to be talking to John about a subject that's very close to his heart and he's been working on for many years. And it's a process he calls mediation teaming. And it's designed to support even the most difficult of cases. Our hope is at the end of the conversation that you're going to have a clear idea and understanding of mediation teaming and why and how John has developed this process over many years and the benefits of it, but also the main challenges behind that process too, in helping separating and divorcing couples reaching a successful outcome in mediation. So John, my first question is, what is mediation teaming?
Well, that is a good question. It's mediation. It is at the heart of the process. So the mediation in my mind is one person, the mediator, helping two people or more, could be two or more, reach their own decisions and reach their own outcomes within that kind of mediation process, where the principles are that the clients make the decisions, that they decide they want to be there to do it. That's voluntary. I'm neutral, and the whole process is confidential, providing that safe space. And so that is the core team, if you like. That's the team, the two decision makers and the facilitator. And the idea of the teaming process is every couple brings with them their own specific challenges. It could be individual, could be situational, the kind of their situation is a challenge, the things they need to sort out, whether it's children, money, and so on, all sorts of challenges at the practical, emotional, psychological level. And of course, you and I know full well that in an ideal world, the separating couple wouldn't need anyone else to support that decision-making process. But let's say, I don't know, we'll come to this, I'm sure, in terms of case studies and so on. Let's say they've got a complicated pensions, or they've got a business asset portfolio, or they've got complicated child arrangements. Maybe one of the children or two of the children actually want their own voice. You're suddenly talking about other experts, and the process can quickly become quite disparate, quite disjointed, quite dysfunctional sometimes. So the idea of the teaming model that I've been developing, you mentioned, is how do you overcome that challenge, which we'll come to the kind of latter part of this talk. How do you bring together the people that this couple need to support their every need, the practical, emotional, psychological, so that we can all working in a cohesive, collective way around that central purpose of helping and supporting couples to reach their own decisions and reach their own agreements. There lies the challenge, and that's what mediation teaming is. Are you okay for me just talk a little bit, because I want to say,
Yes, absolutely, John. You're explaining really why you've developed this process, haven't
yeah,
you? You've identified one of the issues that mediators or solicitors sometimes have if they're not adopting that process that you've developed.
yeah, and it does come down to how do you construct that collective, that cohesion between all the professionals working to that central purpose. So I call it central purpose, which is helping couples. The why, I guess, when I reflect back, and how I've come to this point in time now where I'm doing this building comes to resolutions on, I think, the career choices I've made have kind of brought me to this, really. I started in the armed forces, leadership team, and so on. I then kind of trained as a lawyer, and I quickly then trained as a mediator, and then as a commercial mediator and a collaborative lawyer, and then as a commercial family mediator, and so on. So I could see myself being drawn to this, helping people reach their own solutions rather than taking it away from them and solving it for them. And so, and at the heart of that, for me, again, it comes down to me personally as well. The why. Why do I spend my time? Why do I want to do this? And I don't want to spend too much on this because I don't want to be too self-indulgent. But it comes down to, I guess, is this idea of helping people build their agency and their connection, their capacity, what I call their capacity, competence, and commitment to look. Shit's happened. You separated, divorced. I've been through it. It's not a great time.
mm,
How do you help? How do we, you and I, solicitor, mediator, pension expert, work with this couple to separate together, to make decisions together? And that for me is my raison d'etre, the big why. And that's why I guess I'm constantly looking at ways to improve my skills, my capacity, and so on, to do that, and looking for other professionals who want to work in that way.
mm,
Really, um,
mm,
that's the why, really, and that's where that's essentially how I've come to this point. And obviously, my reading and what I've researched and so on has led me to be interested in that. And I'll come on to the compass resolution and the kind of family mediation team in a second. But I mean, that's, as I say, that's why I've come to
mm,
this.
mm.
That's what drives me personally. Yeah.
Sure. And how have you built your team, John? And what are you sort of looking for in your team?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm looking for essentially for clones. No, I'm not looking for clones. I'm looking for professionals who share a similar professional value set, philosophy, value, principles, and approach. Couple professionals who see who are drawn towards helping others, so they have a caring kind of approach, kind of they want to work with others to support them, and to get the best out of their car. So somewhat professionals who are interested in that kind of approach, often, by the way, collaboratively
Mm,
trained, often
mm,
other mediators like yourself, actually, who have been drawn towards working in that way. And so I'm looking for professionals who, even if they're pension experts, actually, and I've got a number of pension experts on the panel who are drawn to working in that way, working directly with clients and in a team way. Some people, yeah, we all know, some
mm.
people are very team focused, and some people are not. They're very independent, isolated. They like to work in
Mm.
bunkers and very competitive and so on.
Yeah.
Others are very much more collaborative. So we're looking
Mm.
for the kind of people. Yeah.
And presumably you've got quite a long list of people that you trust, that you respect, who you've worked with for some time now, and they cover a range of different professions as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that, John, as well.
Yes, yes, indeed. So the first thing I wanted to do is create a home. So a home and a vision and something that drew the right kind of people to it. So I created the Compass Resolution website, and I've created this kind of team way of working. And on the website, to answer your question, people will find this growing, what is actually a fluid team. Some professionals come on board, and they don't take to this kind of way of working, and others come and they actually take to it like duck out of water. And
Mm,
so, having found the kind of professionals I think would work with this kind of process, I then set about, or we then set about, it's together, working together. We have little workshops, we work on the same cases, and here's the kind of key word: understanding. It's about building an understanding of what we each do, building the trust between ourselves, building a rapport, but really importantly, understanding what each person can do to support the couple. So when I'm working as a mediator and they start talking about, I don't know, a particular challenge they're having, I might be thinking, okay, which professional, which expert that I know really well and understand what they do and how they work might support that couple. And then we start to build and construct that team,
mm,
if we need to. Because of course, a couple always worry
mm,
about costs and things. When I say team, they go, "Oh, isn't it expensive?" Well, no, because the core team might be just you and me. But actually, if you do really need someone to keep it contained and not
mm,
go out and so on, so you'll find. So I go about doing that. So I might speak to you, and I might talk to you about, like I do now, and you go, well, that's interesting. I'm quite interested in working that way. Come on board, have
mm.
a look, start working together, start training together, do some workshops together, sharing like experiences, and the team grows
Sure.
naturally, organically.
Mm. And are there any sort of basic training qualifications, accreditations that you'd expect people to have, John, before they became part of your sort of mediation teaming?
Yes, thank you. That's a good point, because competence and credibility is really important when you come to professionals. And so, as a starting point, as a base level, each professional needs to be fully accredited in their own area of work. So pension experts need to be accredited as
Mm.
pension and divorce experts. Mediators need to be fully accredited with the Family Mediation Council and experience and drawn to this kind of way of work. Solicitors, my preference, absolute preference, although not exclusive,
Mm.
are ideally trained collaborative lawyers and experienced collaborative lawyers and mediators. But you find some solicitors naturally empathic, naturally, and so on. So yeah, there is a basic accreditation hurdle. I don't know, not hurdle, a requirement if for the team, because of course any client would expect their the professional to be fully accredited and so on. Yeah, yeah.
No, that's very interesting to hear that. And John, so what are the other sort of benefits, would you say, perhaps of doing the teaming? I mean, you've mentioned bringing in experts and people to support the couple in the mediation. But are there any other sort of factors that you would say, look, I really think this is of real benefit to the people within mediation to have these other people helping them in various areas? Anything else that you would highlight?
So maybe to answer that question, we start with the couple themselves and the challenges at their very personal level when they are looking at mediation. And we then answer that question by saying, the benefits of what I'm offering are that they will meet the challenges that you are experiencing and achieving as much of what you want as possible. So let's just start. I mean, most couples, and let's talk about it this way. Most couples actually, when I speak to them as a mediator, they want to get through this. They want to get through it. I'm stuck. I've been doing this for 2 years. I spent £20,000. I've got nowhere. The usual narrative, and so on. Whether they've just got stuck through themselves, through the legal process, whatever. So they're stuck. They want to keep their costs down as much as possible. The more they spend, the fewer their financial options. The smaller the houses, the less smaller the cars. Giving money away to professionals, so the costs keep. They want to manage the time frames, the timetables. They don't want it going on for years. They want it to go on for a few months, actually, maybe 4 or 5 months, 6 months, maybe, not years. And they want it at least damaging as possible. And of course, most importantly, in most cases, they want to protect their children. So the benefit of choosing the process that I have to offer them, the mediation team process, is that it meets all those needs. If they value those and they are committed to those as a starting point, the mediation process and I can work with that. Then the challenge, of course, is that when two people want to come into mediation, I say to most people, look, mediation, because there are lots of options. There's lawyer-led process, neutral evaluation. There's loads of processes. If a couple want to reach their own decisions, keep their costs down, least damaging way, there is a price to pay, and that is they're making their own decisions. They have to overcome and navigate the process of reaching their own decisions. And so it's not suited for people who just want to tell someone what they want and enforce it. It's not suited to coercively controlling behaviors. This is what I want. It's not suited to punishing behaviors, blame, judgment, and so on. So couples are committed to come into a decision-making mediation process and willing to bring their best selves and work with the mediator and each other to share ideas and collectively problem solve. Then the benefits of mediation, benefits you're talking about, are that their costs will be a fraction. I often say, actually, if you choose mediation, guys, it'll be about 1/10 of the lawyer-led process that takes you to an FDR, something like that, effectively. And so, those are the huge benefits. Whether people can do that and work in that way is something to be seen. I guess one, again, anecdotally, and I'll pause a moment. You've got other questions you want to ask me. Anecdotally, I think, having done this for about 30 years, 70% of separating couples, I believe, are suitable for some form of self-determinated process. Let's call it mediation, because that's what it's about. Taking many different forms, because we know mediation can take many different forms. Same rooms, different rooms, and so on and so on. Because the benefits are huge. I'll pause there because I could keep
Mm,
talking,
mm.
but those are the kind of some of the benefits I'd say. I mean, we can talk about a case study if you want to. We can talk about maybe take a couple in a kind of situation, and we can share you as a solicitor and me as a mediator, and we can talk about that if you want to.
Well, yes, I mean, that might be helpful for listeners to have a kind of practical example of where um, teaming has really helped that couple in mediation, John.
Well,
Um,
okay. Well, shall I
mm,
uh, let me quickly come up with a kind of typical, I don't like to call it standard because
yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
situation is unique, but standard.
Mm,
Okay, couple, they're in their maybe late 40s, early 50s, three children, two have left home, one's still dependent. They've got a portfolio of assets, maybe enough to divide between them and achieve a clean break, more or less. But the whole different types of assets, pensions, and small business, and so on. And they want to keep their costs down. They want to reach a, why don't they all say this? I want a fair outcome. Depends
mm,
what they mean by fair. Fair outcome, cost effectively, time managed, and so on. That's the situation. The challenges for this couple are that they see fairness in very different ways. They're very different personalities. Funny old thing. Very different personalities, different parenting styles, and actually their stories about how the marriage has come to an end. Not strangely, because everyone accepts this, are very different. So
mm,
lots of differences, which could actually derail the whole process. So lots of
mm,
challenges, practical, the situation, what they've got to solve, emotional and psychological. So that's a kind of a classic profile of the couple coming to mediation. I will see them each separately. I've seen them separately, and when I'm seeing them separately over an hour to an hour and a half, I will get a very clear sense as a former lawyer, mediator, and so on, of the challenges at every level, psychological, emotional, and
mm,
practical, they might be facing. At that point, I am straight away thinking team. I'm straight away thinking,
mm,
do this couple do they have all the resources themselves with me to sort everything out? No, because they've got a business, they've got pensions, they've got maybe some children issues. So I'm thinking, who might who might be they need, and so I might recommend fairly early on, go and take some early legal advice, because I'm recognizing maybe one of them, and I'm not saying wife or husband because the power imbalance is fine. One of
yeah.
them may need a bit of confidence and clarity from advice. I might recommend them to you. And so, what do you do with them? You knowing
Mm,
that they're coming to mediation, how might you approach that? Giving that person advice. Maybe
mm.
you come in here a little bit because I've now brought you in as a solicitor. I recommended my client. We know they're going to try mediation, and I recommended some early legal advice. Boom, over to you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it really depends, of course, from individual to individual. Um, Early legal advice can be very useful if it's from the correct solicitor, of course, and that solicitor is prepared to look at things holistically, to be supportive of the mediation process, rather than becoming very partial, very positional. It's very important, of course, I know it's a bit cliche to be 360 degree, but to look at it from the other person's perspective
Yes, yes.
as well, and being very clear with your client of the options that they've got process wise, and the advantages and disadvantages of all of them. And if it does give that person who perhaps doesn't quite have that level of confidence um, a bit more confidence and has a few more ideas about how the process is going to work, about their possible options. I know it's very early days where perhaps there's just been one meeting, to go into a mediation with you, John, then I think that can obviously be helpful for them, and hopefully also for you as well. But it's the way that sort of meeting is managed, and their expectations as well are, so that they can be informed, or as informed as they can be, albeit at an early stage, usually going into the mediation. Of course, we've all experienced from time to time where people are pretty much told everything that they might, in their distress, want to hear, and actually that can be quite damaging. And it's then very difficult, isn't it, for the mediation process to take off. It can, but there is quite a lot of work to be done to get you back on track, isn't there?
There is, and you are a solicitor. I completely trust, and there is this mutual trust and understanding in how you work and how I work, which is at the core of this team. So
Mm,
that's what we're talking about today, isn't it? And so I understand that about you, by the way, and
mm,
therefore coming back to this core team, when I'm got my client and I know what their values and how they want to work. My responsibility is to recommend them to the kind of person I know who, as you say, supports the holistic the underlying spirit messages of mediation. And sometimes in mediation, I might say to two solicitors who are there as well, can you just look? I know I don't want to be I might give them the heads up about this before the
mm,
mediation, but can I just ask you to, if you were representing the other person, how might you put forward a view for them? How
mm,
might you represent them? You know, the old strategy of arguing the opposite. And because of course that is this 360 180. I know
mm,
it's cliche as you say. It's so important to be able to because remembering, what are we trying to do here, all of us? We're trying to help this couple as a team construct outcomes, agreements that has enough in it for both of them. And if we don't know that and appreciate that and hear that and understand that and support each other and all of us to construct something that recognizes and incorporates those things, we're never going to get there. So we
mm.
all need to be working that. So that's great to hear you say that. I knew you would say that because we know each other really well. And so, okay, so listen, we've got some lawyers on board,
Mm,
and they're working behind the scenes, but they may also come into mediation. I know you've done that with
sure.
me as well, so that works really well with the
Mm,
right people. Um, so I might also, because we're still talking about constructing that team,
yeah.
I might, so at the early stage, I met them both, recommend this list. I might also recommend them to a neutral
Mm,
financial advisor, a neutral financial neutral, call them, to maybe to work with them together. With what, for what reason? Well, to help them pull the data together, financial disclosure. Lawyer, I know
mm,
we call them Form Es, but financial
yeah.
disclosure.
Yeah.
Understand the information and to also help them work with a pension expert. So we've got this neutral financial
Mm,
expert outside the mediation working with them. So that's really useful. The pension expert, again, we work with two or three pension experts who really understand what they're trying to achieve. And then there may be maybe one or both of the couple need some support with building their budget, their expenditure schedule. We know
mm,
that can be such a contentious area.
mm,
So working with someone, an expert, who can also work with both husband and wife to build one of their, and so that shifts the maybe some of the pressure away from building it. So you've immediately got the couple,
mm,
the mediator facilitating the team and the decision making, the solicitor who's there supporting the couple to work in mediation, got the pension expert, financial advisor. I know it's sounding expensive, but you're going to need those anyway,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
actually
Absolutely.
cohesive control.
Mm,
So
mm,
that's how we're doing it. But with
mm,
people we know, we understand how they work, we all understand, and we're creating this space, this environment, I like to call it, within which we're all working in the same aligned, cohesive, collaborative
mm,
way.
mm.
Incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the challenges, John, that I find, and I'm sure all mediators and solicitors and other professionals working in the area that we do, of course, is the emotional challenges that our clients have,
Mm.
and the ability to sometimes, or the inability sometimes, to be able to think clearly and rationally, and managing the emotions in what is, of course, an incredibly difficult time for them. And that, for me, if I'm honest, is the biggest challenge that I find, whether as I'm a solicitor or a mediator, in dealing with that. And again, as part of the mediation team, having people on board who can deal with that side of things, because however
Mm.
empathetic, sympathetic, patient that we are, or we try to be, we are, or most of us are not trained, in that area, are we?
No.
So I guess you've got a team of people again that you can refer, and involve
Yes.
people in if they need that help. I'm not saying that every couple that comes into mediation are
No.
cannot think rationally and straight and make up
No,
them informed decisions, but it can be a challenge.
and many may not recognize that need in
Mm,
themselves actually.
yeah.
So let's start with the kind of then I'll talk about the coaching. So as you know, I'm also a divorce coach. um,
Mm,
so how do you, so here's the question: how do you integrate, how do you create the emotionally psychological supportive process so each couple comes in working at their maximum commitment, capacity and competence emotionally to interact, communicate in an interpersonal way, so they can work intrapersonally, maximizing their capacity? How do we help them work in a sufficiently effective interpersonal way, communicating and decision making?
mm,
Yeah, and I'll come to how in a minute, but I often say to couples in my first meeting, this is how I describe it, and they get it actually, and then I'm immediately priming and preparing them to 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 be responsive to if I recommend a coach. I say to them, look, I'm guessing you're both going to come into mediation and you're both going to want to achieve certain things. And there is the irrational kind of, there's two main processes going on here. I mean, it's a bit more complicated, but I'll say it this way.
mm,
We're going in this direction because we're trying to make progress, trying to reach an agreement. And there is the rational, pragmatic, logical, cognitive, side of us, where we're all collectively reasoning, explaining to each other, exploring, bringing each other into ideas. Boom. And then there is the bit below, the what I call the relational aspects, the communication parts, incorporating the dynamics, the patterns established over years, the family scripts they have about each other, belief
mm,
systems, a lack of trust. And so we got this kind of, if I had two hands going this way, I could, but I'm not disjointed.
mm,
So we're
mhm.
going in this direction. So we're working really well with the mediator and any problem solving, benches, lawyers, dum, 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 and suddenly, boom, up
Yeah.
this comes. Triggered,
Mm,
triggered.
mm,
And so, as long as that doesn't knock that completely off, then I'm going in the right direction, that's okay. So what I say to them is, do you want to get there? Do you want to maximize your chances of getting there? And they both told me what a pain each other are and how
mm,
they lack the trust. Do you want some help with that? What support would you like from me? What support would I, and they tell me. And then
mm,
I say, okay, from what you've told me, I think you would really benefit from. And then I have a team of coaches, which is gradually growing, from people I trust, people we can work together, people understand what mediation is about, and they are useful. Coming right back to your question,
mm,
for a number of reasons. They work with couples to, at the interpersonal level, to manage their own triggers, work on themselves so they can, their relationship with themselves, and they're working so they can be their best selves, and to help each other manage their own triggers, to support, to make sure that, when someone is triggered, they don't just trigger back. There's not a cycle
mm,
of
mm,
conflict.
mm,
We can shift the conversation into what just happened there, why did it happen, what can I do differently, what can you do differently. It's a very different conversation based essentially around non-violent communication model and so on. That needs sometimes support coaching. I say to people, you've never been in mediation before. This is challenging.
mm,
What's going to get you across the line? And they recognize that. And so off they go to a coach, or maybe one of them does.
mm,
The other one, because sometimes they have different capacities and competence. Sometimes you get a real empath,
yeah.
flexible, very equipped, and the other person isn't, really very anxious and very worried, and being maybe in an abusive relationship, coercive, controlling, and so
Mm,
on.
mm,
You still work with that. So coaching is really important if couples want to be able to hold on to the decision making, want to keep their costs down, which I say it's tough. So
mm,
yeah, coaching is important.
mm,
Integrated mediation coaching, essentially.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and what about any other sort of challenges, John? I mean, obviously we've spoken about the emotional side of things, which often can distract people from
Mm.
getting to the outcome during the mediation process, or indeed in any process. But is there anything else that you would wish to sort of highlight in terms of challenges to this process?
Yeah, let me just end with the big one, because I know I'm conscious of your time and I'm conscious
Mm,
of the viewers' time as
mm,
well. Let's end with the big one. Awareness and understanding out there of the power and the opportunity that mediation and mediation teaming offers. If you're getting divorced and you knew that you could keep your costs down to maybe a couple of thousand, whatever it is, rather than, and you could get through a process and look back in the future with pride, saying, well, actually, it was tough, but we did it together with help. Your children can get to the point in the future, look back and say, our parents, it was tough for them. We could see that, but they did it. If parents really understood the power of this opportunity, the positive power that you actually get, and were aware of it and really understood it, then we would be seeing many, many, many more people not going through court. Isn't that what the government wants? Isn't that what we want?
Sure.
Isn't that what the couples want?
Mm.
That's the challenge. That's, I would say, one of the biggest challenges: awareness, understanding of what we're talking about here today, which is partly what we're
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah. Well, John, I hope that everybody is more aware now of mediation teaming, and certainly its benefits far outweigh any challenges. For sure, having experienced it with you in several cases, and being part of a team that really have the clients at the centre of everything, must be the way forward. And having a joined up way of working together. So, John, thank you very, very much for your time today. It's been very interesting and informative. Thank you very much.
Well, Richard, and of course, thank you as well. We thank each other, but no, thank you. No, thanks for taking the time. And I did ask you, and taking the opportunity and giving up your time, which is most valuable, of course, to give me the opportunity to just talk about something I'm so passionate about. And so, thanks for that. And I look, and also, it's been great working with you, and I look forward to